Hello, Las Vegas, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of Golf at the Park, Angel Park Golf Club's weekly interview show. Thank you for liking and commenting and also subscribing to our channel. We really appreciate it. On this week's show, we have Mr. Ben Buck. Ben, thanks for coming on.
Absolutely.
This is fun, man, because Ben actually was the first guest on Golf at the Park. This is his second time doing it. And we were back here on a couch. You can't go see it. Well, you could go see it. It's on Facebook stored. We were shooting live on Facebook Live. And tell me a little bit about, because I'm really excited to do your episode again. Tell me about what you thought about that and what you're excited about getting to redo.
Oh, I got the best. I got to see the best ones and the worst ones, and I got to see go off of theirs. So between the answers and just the flow of it, we were so a little choppy. Now I think we're good to go.
Well, it was literally the first time I had ever tried to do an interview, so it wasn't conversational. You were probably a little bit more nervous just because you hadn't seen it.
Did we try to do that live too? Didn't we?
We did it live.
Yeah, we did it live.
I mean, it was crazy. I mean, we do these in one take, but yeah, it was just, I'm really glad that we're going to get to redo this. Ben is our tournament coordinator and our sales manager here at Angel Park. You've been here how long?
19 years.
19 years. So since I've been back, he's been here a year and a half longer than I have in my second stint here. But we get to go back a long ways at Angel Park, so I'm excited about that. But let's start at the beginning, Ben. Tell me about how you got introduced to golf.
So one day I just started playing around with my dad's set of clubs and took out a 7-iron, I believe it was. I was probably 12 or 13 years old. Emptied out my dad's golf balls out of his pocket, all of his golf bag. Went down to the park, just your average neighborhood park, and started hitting shots. And I'm like, this is fun, old.
Yeah, what kind of clubs were they?
I mean, they were, you could use it as a butter knife. It was a blade, but, I mean, that's all they had back then. So I don't even know if it was a ram or what it was. But, yeah, it was just some rickety old club. And I started hitting it, and I got yelled at because my dad wasn't golfing, and he had no golf balls. And he was like, where'd they all going?
So you snuck them.
Oh, yeah. No, I totally. And I might have taken a few quarters from his golf bag, too.
That's great.
And I just started hitting golf balls in a park. Once my dad found out that I was interested by not having any golf balls left, he was like, here, when I go to work, I'm going to drop you off at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I'll pick you back up when I get done with work.
Just leave you there all day.
I just stayed at the course all day. Waterloo, Iowa, I was living in at the time. They had a $5 pass for the summer, and they got you on 3 courses as long as you teed off by 11 o'clock. So I would get 2 rounds in. I would tee off early, have a snack, and then tee off right before 11. And then when I got done, like 3 o'clock-ish, I would practice for 2 hours. My dad would come pick me up at 5. So I was there from 6 a.m. to 5 p.m. I was that little brat hanging around the golf shop all day.
Yeah, we have the kids that grow up here. That's a fun story. The late 80s and the early 90s, gosh, Robbie Becker has the same story, getting dropped off in the morning, a cheap little pass, and just playing golf. I love that. You've got a big family. Are you the only one of your brothers and sisters that got into it?
Yeah, I have 3 brothers and 3 sisters. 2 of my sisters got in it, but they really didn't stay in it. My younger brother, Zach, he plays a lot of golf. My older brother, Joe, he's actually who I inherited my first set of clubs from. He played in high school, but I sort of took over his set, and he still plays now and then. And I have another brother. He just plays for fun, and obviously my dad plays.
Awesome. All right, take us into junior high and high school because you're probably getting good young.
Yep. So never took lessons. Self-taught. I was a sophomore in high school, and I wrote the pro at the golf club that we practiced for the golf team. I said, hey, I really want a job picking your driving range. And that's how I got into it. That's how I got into working in golf.
Do you remember what they paid you? It was minimum wage at the time.
Yeah, it was
$3 an hour, probably.
Yeah. But we took advantage of a lot of things working at a golf course that young. But that was our same course we played high school golf in. And so my head pro knew that I was on the golf team, so I got a job picking the range. But in high school, we had a golf team, small school. I mean, Cedar Falls, Iowa. We had, I think, 73 in my graduating class. So there was a bigger high school with like over 2,100 kids in each class. But our school was a, not private, but it was UNI, University of Northern Iowa, is a teaching school. And all of their teachers, or too soon to be teachers, actually came to our high school to teach classes and get credits that way and learn how to teach a class. So we had a really small school. So our golf team and our sport teams, we're competitive in basketball, not at all in football, and not really at a golf. And it sort of fell off. And the upperclassmen when I was a freshman, there was a few upperclassmen that were pretty good, and our team started to get pretty good then. But we didn't make state our first and second year. But our junior year, I made state individually. Won sectionals to go to state, and it wasn't until I was in a playoff, and I was just ready
to win state,
to win the sectionals to go to state. I thought just I qualified, and I had to go out because me and this kid tied, so I knew I was in, and I was right about ready to tee off for the playoff hole between me and this kid, and I found out the whole team made it, and that's the first time our whole team made state in, 20, 40 years.
How fun.
And so it was really cool. And I was so jazzed up that we all made it. I sort of threw.
You got a little too excited.
I didn't even care about winning the tournament. So I look back, I go, I wish I would have done that, but I didn't care. We were all having fun. I think I played 2 holes, and after that it was over. And I was like, I don't care. The whole team's going. So it was fun, though.
So that was your junior year, and I know you play college golf. So how does your senior year go, tying into both playing and looking at schools advancing in golf?
So our high school coach, my high school coach, really didn't do any recruiting. Great guy, funny as hell. He was also our history teacher, but as far as recruiting, he didn't do anything. I got a ton of letters from Division III schools and like no-name schools, and I was like, no, I could do better than that. And so, and I played really good, played a lot of local tournaments in Iowa my junior and senior year, not only varsity golf, but like tournaments. Played a couple
junior
games.
golf.
Zach Johnson, actually.
Yeah, we left him out of the first episode, and I was frustrated with you. Zach Johnson was like neighboring city or something.
He's a little bit older than me, but there was a few tournaments we played in, and I always joke with my wife now. I'm like, yeah, I went to the driving range to work. He went to the driving range to practice, and that's where we went our separate ways.
That's fun.
But yeah, we played in a few tournaments together. And so since I wasn't recruited, I just was going to walk on at Iowa. I was going to take my chances and not go to a smaller school and just try to walk on at Iowa. Now, in the first episode, I said I was a walk-on. The first 2 years, I tried to walk on. It was pretty political. It was like a week-long. You were on the team for a week. You got to play against the players every day. And I was beating them pretty good. I was holding my own. And it was like, if you didn't start and you weren't one of the top 7 guys that got invited to the dinners and all that stuff, you were just a nobody.
Yeah.
And so I was like, and after the second year trying to be a full walk-on and to be on the team full time, I realized it's too political. And by that time in college, I was having way too much fun.
I can imagine.
I took a job bartending, and I was like, I don't need that. So golf just went away. But it helped me get into college. Because I didn't have the best grades in high school, but I entered a program through the University of Iowa for athletes with not the best grades to make sure they can get into school. And so I was almost babied the first year of college. I went to school with all the other athletes in the other sports, and we had tutors, we had study halls, and they gave us our curriculum. We didn't pick it ourselves because they're like, hey, we'll help you along. And so from not being a very good student to my first year in college being a 4.0, I was scared I had to study and everything. I was like, oh, this isn't so bad as if you do the work. And I was forced to do the work because of study halls and all these people on top of me saying, no, you got to do this. And so I got off to a really good start academically in college, and it was because of they thought I was going to golf for them. So got my foot in the door. So
and then where do you go after your sophomore year?
Party. Yep. Golf in college was over, but then I wasn't going to transfer anything like that. I had a really good close knit of friends, and so I just got through college in 5 years.
So you're just playing golf
Yep.
mostly just
for fun,
recreationally,
yeah.
but still good.
Yep.
And is that around the time that you decide you want to kind of at least maybe not a career, but at least you want to keep going in golf?
Yeah, I always knew
somehow?
it. When I was a senior, or right when I got out of college, went through the PGM program, got done with level 1, was stuck in level 2, because I actually got my first head pro job at a small golf course in Iowa, in Iowa City. It's actually Elks Club, and they have, about 250, 300 golfing members. It was a small Elks Club with a 9-hole course.
And you were the head pro at what age?
I was 19 years old.
How fun. That's crazy.
And so that was a real learning experience. And I was like, hey, I'm in. And so I stopped doing my book work, my PGA stuff. And so I sort of let that lapse. But it was easy to do because I was like, oh, I'm already here. So I didn't think I had to do it. But so I was there for 3 years. And then I came out here.
Yeah, how do you end up in Vegas? What was the draw?
So the head's greenkeeper at the Elks Club.
Was that Bill Roy?
No, that was Ned. And Ned and Bill grew up together in Iowa. And so Ned found out that I was looking to come to Vegas. And he was like, hey, I know a really good friend of mine that works at Angel Park. And so when I moved out here, Thanksgiving, I was working here by the first week of December. I talked to Bill. He got me a job with Don Kramer. Worked in the
Don Kramer. I don't know if you're watching these, but shout out Don.
Yeah.
I was here when he started. I want to say it was around 94. And he worked his way all the way up from the cart barn to eventually being the general manager here for a year. So that's fun.
Now, I must say, as you've worked in the cart barn a number of times, there's a hierarchy, like everything.
Sure.
I was in the cart barn for 2 weeks because somebody in the golf shop had to leave, and they knew he was leaving at the end of the year. So I was down there in the cart barn, and they all found out that I was moving up to the golf shop, and I was stepping on a lot of toes.
Yeah.
And I got warned by a number of people, hey, this isn't cool. You don't do that. And I was like, well, that's why I got hired, but I'm just helping out for now. So that was, something different. But I see it today. Like, there's a hierarchy in anything you do. So.
And you're working in the shop for a few years, I'm guessing, until you end up with the tournament coordinator position?
Yeah, a year and a half. Mike left, and I took over all tournaments and I've been running them ever since. And man, the people and the groups that come back year after year, it's just unbelievable. And that's the part I like the most. I love hosting events. It's like hosting a party that you don't pay for. So I love that part.
And you're a staple, and you're so well known for that. And most of the groups enjoy you as much as you enjoy them. I know we've already had Jeff Kawana on from Carson, and that's probably your prized possession group. But why don't you tell me about a couple of your relationships and others? Because I know there's so many. There's probably too many to name off.
So the Baco group, I've been running them for, I believe, 13 or 14 years.
Shout out Jim Autry.
Jim Autry's boys coming up from Bakersfield and actually all over the place. Got to know them. I mean, their family, every single one of them. Heck, last year was my first year playing with the boys. It's a good group of guys, and so I fit in right in with them. And they're like, why don't you play with us? I'm like, okay, let's do it. And so we did it last year, and we played horrible, but I had fun because, I've been running it such a long time. I know all 72 of the guys, and so Jim Autry's group, Baco boys, are awesome. Jeff Kawana, like you said, my kids know him as Uncle Jeff. He is family to us. Can't say enough about all of his guys that he brings up every March. It's
fun how golf can do that and build those relationships. I think that's amazing. Around the time that you started as tournament coordinator is when I started working here as the group salesperson. And why don't you tell the story about the office they made for us? Because they had to create an office.
Well, originally, right before you came, we were in a sales office with myself, the assistant, and another sales director. And they wanted to move us out to put the call center in there. So they cut what was a closet basically that led to the bathroom. So it was a storage closet where they cut a hole in the front of the building so we could come in. Slapped sales, was it marketing sales on the window?
Something.
I mean, it was the printing department. What we called it.
We called it the printing department as a joke for years. Yeah, so it was a storage closet behind the bathrooms, and they just cut a door and a pathway in there for us. And that was my first office. I was in the cart barn, and then when I got the job, we moved into that office. And boy, did we have some fun in that office.
Yeah, it was probably a good thing that it was
we were
away from
tucked away from everyone.
Because between the music we played and the stories we tell, and
David Bogue and Brenda would more than occasionally give us a phone call or give me a phone call and say, hey, you guys got to keep it down over there, because we were behind the executive offices as well. I want to talk about, I don't know how much we covered them in the first time, but I want to talk about two specific guys that I know you've been very, very close to. They're no longer here, but they were here for a long, long time. I want to talk about Brian Hayworth and Reese Fernandez. Tell me a little bit about meeting those guys and playing golf with those guys and your relationship with those guys.
So like I told you, when I first started out in the cart barn, Brian was the first assistant at the time, and his buddy Stu, he's the one that gave me a lecture about stepping on people's toes, and we don't do that here, and and he gave me that cold shoulder. But Brian, from day one, me and him hit it off really good. Love to play golf, but at the same time, we love to entertain and do our job and do it well. And so me and Brian sort of took me under his wing, and he's like, don't worry about all that. I got you. So Brian was my mentor here, and we did everything. I mean, we ran everything here. And yes, I mean, at Angel Park, the head pro has a lot of stuff to do behind the scenes because there's so many people working here and so many other movements. But the first assistant in the golf shop really needs to stay connected to the golfers. And that's what we did. Anything had to do with golf, we made sure it was taken care of. So, yeah, Brian, he's a really good guy. When he left, I mean, me and him have a number of stories on and off the golf course.
I want to pick one. Can you think of one that's one of your favorites?
Probably the time we ran into the tree in the parking lot.
I don't know this story.
I don't know if I should be telling it. We went out down the street to a local bar and after work and had a few drinks and nothing crazy. But he saw a girl that he liked making out with somebody else. So he's like, we got to go. So he was not happy at all. And so, like I said, we had a few drinks, nothing crazy, so we were okay to drive. But it was, 10:30 at night, and he comes in the parking lot and the sprinklers are on. And so that little roundabout.
You guys had left one of your vehicles
I
here.
left my car here, so he was dropping me off so I can go back home because we left right from work. So he's still mad about his girl. He floors it in the parking lot, and when he tries to turn, there's a little front-wheel drive. When he turned, we just kept on going straight, and in the emergency circle on the left side of the parking lot, there used to be 4 trees there. They cut 2 of them down, but for the longest time, you could see where we actually hit it. And we will jump the curb, bam, hit the tree, sort of looked at each other. Airbags didn't go off. We're like, you good? He was like, yeah, I'm good. He backed up, went back on the curb. He was good. He was like, man, I'm so sorry. He dropped me off, and we saw each other the next day to open the shop.
How badly was his car damaged? Do you remember?
Maybe the radiator was dented, and
so
maybe the bumper,
got out
but
pretty
yeah,
unscathed.
minimal. I mean, we looked and made sure like it was okay, but it was like years later, I still laugh with him about it because I'm like, yeah, remember the time we hit the tree? And yeah, you can still see it.
Tell us about Reese.
So Reese, he moved here. I'm from California. I think he was 16 or 17 at the time when he moved here. And typically we don't hire anybody under 18. But he hounded us for days. Like, I want a job, I want a job, I want a job. So I think he might, to this day, be the youngest person we ever hired. And we hired him in player services. And I think he was here for about 8 months and we fired him. Because he was a little young, inexperienced, and, he was set in his ways, and he was young, having fun like we all were, but we were a little older, so we know a little better how to handle ourselves. So he got fired.
Didn't Reese get fired from here multiple times?
So somehow he got hired back, And not only did he get hired back, he was hired back in the golf shop. He was there for 4 or 5 months, wasn't working out, so he got fired/demoted. He goes, fine, I'll just go back to working in the cart barn. And we're like, well, that didn't work out the best for you either. And so he went back down there, got fired, and then he started working for Tom Carlson in the back of the range. So technically, I think he got fired or let go 4 different times in 4 different positions. And then he helped Tom out for the longest time. Like, he was almost
ended
ready
up running it for
yeah.
Tom for a long time.
Yeah.
And Brandon Bauman, who's been on here, talked about Reese. And we have multiple stories of people that I want on the show that are younger that were taught by Reese. So he was legendary for that. You and Brian and Reese were all pretty equal and also competitive in the game. So do you have any thoughts about who was the best player, or do you have any stories about you guys competing on the golf course?
So I think Reese probably had the best talent, raw talent. I mean, because he sat there when he wasn't giving lessons and he would pound golf balls. I don't even know what the driver range is. I might go to the driver range twice a year. I don't take lessons, anything like that. It's just all self-taught, all by feel. But Reese, he's a grinder. He sits on the range rat. He hits balls. He does this, tinkers with his stuff. I mean, he's that guy. Brian had probably the most consistent. If you saw him after the 13th hole, he was having a good round. But if he wasn't having a good round, he always liked to just take a turn and you didn't see him again and he was done. So Brian used to do the old Irish, what do you call it? The Irish goodbye.
My friends made fun of me for a long time about Jed's only good for 13 holes, just because I did that too.
But I was right in the middle. If I'm on, I could beat them both, but they probably were both more consistent than I am. And that's what drove me, because I was like, I know these two were probably better than I am, but I knew I can get them. And so that drove me to play better and focus. And so, yeah, it was pretty good though. But
that's fun. Did you ever, so you ran the Pro Scratch. We'll talk a little bit about the Pro Scratch tournament, but leading into it, did you ever play with either one of them as your partner?
Reese, yes.
How'd you guys do?
Great. The best story about that Pro Scratch, we have a good time. And it was 16 of the mount course, and skins were like $40 a day. And Reese is 120 yards out in the fairway. I put my ball in green, best ball, as you know. And so he could really attack that pin, and we put it way back in the corner. If anybody knows, 16 has a little peninsula out in the back of the green to the right, and it's probably 10 feet deep, and
and the pin was back there.
The pin's way back there, so you had a 5-foot area to hit it.
And
either
that bunker,
short,
straight down.
You're either short, long in the grass, or you're putting for birdie. Well, Reese holds out for a 2.
Wow.
We jump up, we try a high 5. He misses my hand, hits me with his shoulder almost, and almost knocks me out. I'm on the ground,
Clubs you in the head?
Yeah.
Flying elbow?
So I think we end up winning like an $800 skin for that one. So that was great. But yeah, Reese was always a guy that when I was in trouble, no matter how I was doing, he was good enough to say, I got you, And so I would go a little crazy, try some crazy stuff, take risks. But Reese, he could hunker down and get it done when I was out of the hole. So yeah,
that's
we
fun.
were great partners.
Tell us a little bit about the Pro Scratch, the kind of tournament it was, the kind of players it brought in, and then also the tie to OB Sports, because it was there also was almost a tournament within a tournament.
So when I first started running tournaments here, corporate Chris Strauss came to me and said, "Hey, we want to bring back the Pro Scratch." And I wasn't aware of it. And so his favorite thing was about how Chris Gomez played in it. And
it was Robert Gomez.
Robert Gomez.
And the very first one, Robert Gomez ended up in the Derby out on Cloud 9. On the Island Green is where they would always end it. And it was Robert Gomez and his partner and my dad and his partner in the last one. And to show how much of the Derby was a drinking kind of rousing everybody heckled each other. It was it was a little bit different than the golf tournament that was out on the 18s. My dad poured Coors Light in Robert Gomez's line for his birdie putt on the Island Green. Gomez putted it through it and won, made the putt. So that's a great story.
My rule when running the Derby after I took over is there's 3 rules. You can't impede the person's swing or their golf ball while it's in motion. We don't play unless I have a drink in my hand. So if my drink's empty and I put it down, the tournament stops. And everybody's like, what's going on? What's going on?
Great rule.
And all of a sudden somebody runs to me and beer. I'm like, okay, let's go. And I guess there's just 2 rules.
Yeah.
Oh, the third rule is rule number 2. So the pro scratch. So I was asked to run this, and I really didn't know the history. And then Chris told me about the history, and I'm like, oh, that's really cool. And I want to say this was 2008 or 2009. I was like, okay, we'll do it. 2-man teams, play best ball, a pro and a scratch, or sometimes there's 2 scratch partners. And so we got a lot of corporate people, and then a few people from the golf course would play in it. And I think that first year I had 32 teams. And like I said, most of them were corporate people that knew about the event in the past, and then local players from Angel Park.
Some of the best local players, would come and play in this tournament because it was a good money tournament.
So running it, we go all out. I mean, we have ice sculptures. We have, it's the cheapest tournament.
Bags.
It's the cheapest tournament you can get in for the best experience ever. The food that we did, and every year it started growing and growing and growing. But by the third year, I think we had 62 teams, and then it grew to 80, 85 teams, and we actually used both courses and capped it. But it was a long round of golf, and so we scaled down to like the top 62 teams, and it became pretty much an invite. But January of every year, I already knew who's in the field because people would be calling me, hey, when's the pro scratch? When's the pro scratch? We got a lot of UNLV players in it. We got players from other colleges around the country. It was definitely 2 sides of the field. Players that really wanted to win it because the purse was good. And then the corporate side of it, which we had a game within the game.
Which it was their vacation and having
those
fun.
Guys. And we had
there
a game
were players
within them.
in there too, but yeah.
But it was, in my opinion, the best tournament in town.
It was. Matt Nolasco was on this show, and he said that it was his favorite, one of his favorites, and that was the only time he played Angel Park was to come play for the Pro Scratch. Going back to how great of an experience it was, is every year they would try to top it, come up with something more and more and more. And David Stead one year was our head pro, director of golf, and he came up with this amazing idea, but one that was kind of a headache for you for years. Tell us about that.
So I don't even know tell you the truth, I don't know if it was David that did that.
I thought it was. And that's how I've always told the story.
We talked about it, and I brought it up, and he goes, yes, we're doing that. But he came up with the idea to put parking lot signs. I know I did because I'm like I said, our office, we call it the printing department. If we need anything done, they came to us and said, hey, print this out. We're like, okay, what do you want? And so I came up with the idea of taking old sponsor signs and actually printing up on my plotter printer the players, where they're from, and putting them out there on rebar.
So personalized parking spots, just like a PGA Tour event.
Yeah, and I would go through the rows, and I would assign each row A, B, C, D, and then left side, right side, and number them. And so when you pulled in the parking lot, you're like, oh, Mr. Francis, you're in B12. You go to row B, there'll be an attendant waiting there, and all of a sudden, boom, there's your sign that says Jed Francis, and your partner's on the right side. Great idea.
The year you started it, it was every single player was like, oh my gosh, this is the coolest thing.
And I think that same year it rained, so I had to redo them the night before. It's easy, a 90-hour week. And so it rained after round 1. So not only preparing for round 2, because I had to repair all
the work you're putting in.
All the scoring. And then I have to worry about reprinting the signs for the parking lot. It's awesome. So the second year, I'm like, no, everybody loved that. We're going to do it again. This year we had wind. That year we had wind, so they weren't on there very good. So I had to find out.
Didn't we have to get rope to try to hold them down?
So I figured out a new way to do it, and that was pounding rebar into the caliche in the parking lot. Usually it's in July, so it's 115 degrees out there, and you're pounding rebar into the cement. So it was a great idea, great personal touch, but nobody really understood how much a pain in the it was to
Yeah.
do. But I did it for the players. Like, they loved it. Everybody talked about it. And after 10 years of doing it, I didn't do it one year. And everybody goes, where's my sign? Where's my parking sign? And I'm like, shoot, they remembered. So it's something that just stuck.
Yeah,
And,
it was their favorite. And I remember every year, if it wasn't a long enough week before that running the tournament, it really was. You just, it was almost like you took a vacation from your family.
oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
You're
And then
gone.
the whole week after that, I pretty much took a vacation from work because I was like, I'm done with
Needed
it.
a break.
But it was, every year we tried to, and we did a great job at topping the year before. It didn't matter if it was the tea gifts. It didn't matter if it was the suite. Every year we went above and beyond what we did.
Let's talk about the suite because that was my job. We would get and then we bounced around because we had to ask for favors from casino hosts at different hotels, but they would give us the penthouse suite we had Treasure Island or the Mirage one year because of that view.
Bellagio.
We had Bellagio for quite a few years thanks to Joe Fiscaldo.
Red Rock. We were at Red Rock.
It wasn't Joe Fiscaldo. Joe Spinuzzi. Spinuzzi was
yes.
the one that
Rest in
did that
peace.
for years.
Yeah.
And then we did Rio one year, and then Cosmo was the place that we did the last few. And my job every year was to sneak up all of the booze. So I don't have any problem telling these stories, even though it's probably embarrassing to some old corporate members. It was too expensive to pay for this booze, but it was a vacation trip for OB Sports and all of their, not only executives, guys from their courses that they ran would come. I mean, it was half the field sometimes was OB Sports. And so they had this entertaining suite that they would, 2-bedroom suite, the whole works. And I was lugging all of the snacks and the bottles and the beer up in pull golf carts. And that was a day job every time.
One of the years at Cosmo, because they had the butler that came with the suite. And we were like, no, here's some money, get out of here.
Yeah.
He goes, no, I can't. And we're like, here's some more money, get out of here. And he was like, okay. So he left, and Pro Scratch is always Sunday, Monday. On Monday morning, the maid service came in, and they counted every bottle and every beer can and charged it for us because we were supposed to be buying it through them.
Right.
But you snuck it all up there. I mean, because that was your job.
Yeah.
But we got stuck with the tab for stuff that we already bought and snuck up there.
I remember
and it was
that
ridiculous.
now that you said that.
It was, it was astronomical. But they went through the trash and counted every single beer can. And then we're like, we sort of looked at the butler like, where were you on that one?
Yeah, but that was probably not only the keystone event every year, but what Angel Park was known for throughout the portfolio of our old management company. All right, let's shift gears. I know you have a Titleist deal, so why don't you tell me about your evolution with playing clubs, what clubs you prefer, and what's in your bag now?
Well, let's get this straight. I'll play whatever I get for free with
Yeah,
whoever
sure.
I can get on staff with. So I've been on staff with Cobra, Titleist, obviously, Ben Hogan. I was on staff with them for a couple years. And who makes Apex? Mizuno, yeah. But since we do so much here with our rental clubs, we have one staff member on with Titleist. So I've been with them forever and it's the best product there is to me. And so I just reap the benefits of it. So it's pretty awesome.
What's in your bag?
Right now, actually, I'm going to get fitted for the brand new Titleist MBs right after this.
Right today.
But yeah, no, right now I have the T100s, but I'm going to go back to the blades. But yeah, nothing better than Vokey wedges, Titleist clubs, and Scotty Cameron putters.
That's fun. Let's talk about Cade and Ryan.
So those are my two kids, growing like weeds. Cade's now 13. Ryan just turned 10 in January. They're knee-deep in soccer. I don't really push any sport on them. But they got into soccer. They're in club soccer now.
And they're good.
So they play, be either practicing or playing 6 days a week. That's especially during the school year. There's no time to golf. Even though I work here, they try to get out once in a while, but they really only play in the summer. But they took a liking to it. I mean, they do like to play. They come to work with me, sort of like how I grew up. They come to work with me. They have a code for the range. They hit balls. They go and putt. Come see me. I'm like, hey, how you doing? And then they go walk the cloud nine. So they're getting into it. My daughter, she'll take instructions. Cade, my son, he's way too cool for that. He's seen me putt a number of times with my wedge. Like when I'm out there with them, I'll just, I won't even use my putter. So he thinks he doesn't have to use his putter. He does it how I do it, but I cannot tell him how to do it.
So he just watches you and tries to replicate your swing.
He has a little bit of my anger. My temper in golf was something.
We'll get to that.
Something that it took me years and years to finally calm down. But I see him play, and I'm like, I was that kid right there, throwing clubs, breaking clubs.
That's got to be so special for you.
Yeah, it is. But I don't want him. Yes, it is. But I don't want to have him go through the years of torture like I put myself through when it's just a game.
Yeah.
It's okay to be competitive and have fun with it. But at the end of the day, it's just a game.
Yeah.
Don't let it kill you.
What are some of your least favorite things about golf? What would you change about golf if you could?
My least, I don't have that many. Some of the stereotypes I don't like, and those are just stereotypes of perceived golfers about how, but the game is growing so much nowadays, and the influencer online, they're sort of breaking all that down. Like, if you would have asked somebody 20 years ago who's on the golf course, you'd get one answer. Snobby people, rich, snobby people. Yep. But I mean, it started that way, but there was a whole nother side of golf that people didn't realize.
And it was. Yeah, I mean, I grew up without a rich family background in golf. But it was, even if you were, it was just weird. Young men, boys coming up in the game were taught that it was, you had to be the purist and you had to respect so many rules of the game. And all of those are with me today. I don't disregard any of those. I just wished always growing up that they were more lax, that it just felt a little bit more embracing. But I think what you're trying to say is that it has been coming along a lot, and there are still people that are coming into golf with that old mindset, and which isn't as nearly as true as it used to be.
And it's two-sided. I mean, I love the tradition of golf. I still wouldn't. I don't know if I might wear a pair of shorts on the golf course twice a year.
Yeah.
Even when I'm playing with my kids, I still wear pants. I think they just changed the rule on the PGA Tour where those guys can wear shorts now. I will never wear shorts. It's just something. So traditions and stuff like that, I love. I love that part of the game. But like growing up when I was 13 years old, 14 years old, and like I said, I had to get out before 11 o'clock. And so I'd be in my second round playing by myself walking, because that's what you did back then, is everybody walked. Very few people took a cart. And when a group of 4 older guys saw a junior carrying a bag and wanted to play through, you get the people to yell at you, say like, and all of a sudden they see you hit the ball and they're like, oh, okay, go ahead and play through.
Yeah.
But, it's like even back then, like just growing up being young in the game, you get out a lot of weird looks because, you didn't fit. You weren't as well dressed as they were, or you were a kid walking, and they would just go, no, you can't play through. And I'm like, no, I'm going to play through. And then once I did, they're like, oh, okay. Yeah, you can play. But again, with influencers and, I mean, everything about golf, it's getting flipped upside down. It's becoming more of an every person's game, and play it how you want to play it. And we'll talk, now that's really my only thing I don't like about the game.
Sure. Kevin Swain brought that up, is that there should still be a balance of trying to maintain more of the tradition and the rules. I think Random Golf Club comes up in almost every episode. I think what's cool about them is that even though they do it differently, they all walk together. There's nobody that maintains the course better than them, that repairs divots and ball marks, and they respect the game. One of their rules is you have to play it as it lies. So they I think are probably my best example of new golf that also has done it right in embracing the old traditions and the culture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what I love the most about the game is anybody can do it. You know, you can't really play basketball if you can't run and dribble. You can't swim in the Olympics if you can't swim.
Right.
If you jump in the pool and sink, you're not going to do very good. But golf is one of those games that you don't have to be good at it. In basketball, if you go 0 for 10 in free throws, you're not going to make it very far.
You don't even have to be athletic.
No. But if in golf, if you make 1 out of 10 putts from 10 feet away, you feel like you could go on tour, you
Yeah.
know? And so it's the game within the game against yourself that anybody can do it. And that's the best thing about golf is, I mean, I used to work at a golf course and I saw a guy 6 days a week, rain or shine, he'd be out there on the golf course. And so finally one day I was like, hey, Mr. So-and-so, let's go play a round of golf. He couldn't break 120, but he was out there 6 days a week religiously.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and that's sort of when it clicked to me going, hey, not everybody that comes to this golf shop knows how to golf, but man, they know how to have fun.
Yeah,
And
they get bit by the bug, and
Yep.
it's one of their favorite things. Changing gears again, let's talk about growing up and now. Who are some of your favorite players to follow? It goes without saying that you watch golf quite a bit and religiously. Who are some of your favorites and why?
It's funny, it's because it's changing now. Because all my favorite players
Are getting
Tiger and Phil, and back in the day, Payne Stewart and Freddie Couples. Those were all the guys I idolized. I remember Payne Stewart was my favorite golfer for years, and then when he passed away, I was a junior in high school or college, and I remember tipping back on my chair and it fell over when I heard the news on ESPN that his
I remember
crashed.
the plane was in the air
Yeah.
and ESPN broke in, and I think a lot of us remember where
Yeah.
we were.
And so that was a sad day. But, yeah, he was always one of my favorites. But now it's going to people like Dustin Johnson. And, Ricky is getting at the end of his not really end of his career, but he's not where he was. But I still like to watch him and Spieth and Justin Thomas, all those guys. They carry on the torch of really, really good golfers and really good guys. So, yeah.
Yeah, really cool. Ben, I think that brings us to the end of the first part of the show. And the second part of the show, as many of you already know, is our Par 5, where we ask the same 5 questions to every guest, come up with different answers. I'm actually even a little curious if some of your answers have changed or if you thought of things that you would have wanted to answer differently. So that's going to be fun for me. Favorite golf movie?
All right. So this is one I'm going to change because there's the GOAT, which is Caddyshack. But out of all your podcasts, I don't know if anybody said Happy Gilmore.
Yeah, it comes
And
up a lot less than
I'm
I
saying
thought it
Happy
would.
Gilmore because that doesn't get the credit that that show, Happy Gilmore, that movie. I mean, the one-liners, the people in it. I mean, you can't get better than that.
Rocky
So,
definitely said it, and I'm sure I'm going to disappoint someone for forgetting that it was theirs, but it's only been said once, maybe twice.
yeah, I'm going Happy Gilmore.
I love that.
for sure.
Favorite club in your bag and why? Shot number 2.
My favorite club in the bag is still my sand wedge. That I won't change. Yes, my sand wedge, my 56-degree sand wedge, because I could do everything from tee off with it to putt with it, and you can use it 100 different ways, and not one way is wrong. And yep, that's my go-to club. If I need something done, I'll figure out a way to do it with my sand wedge.
Awesome. Question number 3, dream foursome. So you get 3 people, anyone, and who would you play with, and where would you play?
This is another answer that has changed to mine. I would take 3 golfers that I know I'd really, really relate together with, and that's Justin Thomas, Spieth, and Fowler, Ricky. Those 3 guys, they hang out all the time. They're really good at golf, but they really know how to have fun when they're off the golf course and they're just doing their own thing together. And that's how I am. I love the game, but I love the social aspect of it just as much. So I don't care if we're in a tournament or just playing as a foursome. I would just like to play as a foursome, have a cooler full of beers, and go out and hang out with those guys because that they could relax out there. You've seen it when they go on their little vacations. Like, that's my dream foursome.
Love it. Where would you play?
Augusta.
Yeah.
Augusta.
I'm surprised
for
that
sure.
doesn't come up more, but I guess it's our age and having to be a purist. But I may be the only person that said that other than you, so that's fun.
Augusta is number one.
Question
always.
number 4, amine fluid, and I think we told the story last time, but I want to make sure we get it in. But yeah, what are you drinking when you're on the golf course now or in the past? I'm pretty sure it hasn't changed a lot.
Nope, I drink cheap beer, PBR.
Yeah.
And PBR stands for play a better round. And yeah, so cheap beer, whatever's on the special. But yeah, I'll have some beers on the
Play
course.
a better round. I don't think you said that the
Yeah.
first time, so that's fun. But we just had Kareem Brown. You know what time it is. It's Kareem Brown time. Went out to do a piece on the golf course a couple weeks ago with his best friend Vince. And Vince ended up saying in the piece that they were drinking Fireball that day because you encouraged them and you said you were going to come out and take a shot with them every time they made a birdie, and he hadn't seen you on 16.
Well, that's called upselling. That's how you upsell.
That's brilliant. Let's talk a little bit about Jameson, just because I want to tell the story about 3 Angry Wives.
Do you want to tell it or do you want me to tell it?
I want you to tell it.
Well, me and Jameson have a good relationship. You know, I do like my Irish whiskey. And 3 Angry Wives, God rest its soul, one of the best bars.
And rest in peace, Aaron.
Aaron. One of the greatest bars in Vegas, or used to be. When I first started working here, I was going on a lunch break, and I just happened to pop in there to have a club sandwich,
I was with you.
and it became my spot.
Oh, yeah, not that time.
No, they just opened a week before I went in there. And so I hung out there for lunch and dinner for probably 6 days a week. Like, I was there regular in there.
We had 2 days a week where we would go and eat lunch there.
For lunch, yeah. And so just the best staff. Everybody there was great. And they came up with a promotion one year. It was mid-January. And they came up with a promotion, 100 drinks. So it didn't have to be a shot, but 100 drinks with Jameson in it got your name on a plaque.
Yep.
And I think it was
And
mid-February.
It just had started it. The plaque had just been hung on the wall.
And I told you, I go, I'm going to make it up there before St. Patty's Day.
By St. Patrick's Day. And right above the plaque was their St. Patrick's Day countdown clock, which is perfect for that story.
A big
But you
party.
said that, and I said, I don't know how you're going to do that, but I'm going to try to get there with you. I quit even trying days into it, and you got there.
I was there before the beginning of March, I think. But again, it wasn't necessarily how much I drank there. It was how often I was there.
Yeah.
And so every time I was there, I made sure I got a couple more. And sure enough, first name on that plaque.
And there was a soccer day, I remember, where there was March Madness.
Yeah.
There were days where you would be there all day, and yeah, you could get a bunch in.
Yep.
Yeah, that's fun. Question number 5, our last question of the show, is we're going to get into your anger problem. So take us back to when it started and then all the way through. But yeah, what word or phrase, or if you don't, I know you do, but I also want to know if you were ever a club snapper or a club thrower. Let's dish all of the anger.
So, again, going back to my junior days, it started off in high school. And right when I was a freshman, I knew I was a pretty good golfer. And I played varsity from day one. But my expectations were so high. Because back then, I would actually practice. I would practice an hour of putting, an hour of chipping after every practice. And so if I didn't chip in 2 or 3 times around, I probably had a wedge in 2 pieces. If I didn't make a putt that I should make, I had broken putters. And again, I was playing my high school career at the course I worked at. And so my head pro was just sick of ordering me a wedge every week. And he goes, "Here, this is my wedge. Don't break it or you're fired."
What a great idea.
And so it worked.
Thanks, boss.
Yeah, so it worked with my wedge. But I got the point. I remember the day it happened. I was a sophomore in high school probably, and I was golfing on the weekend with my dad and my younger brother. And on the 7th hole, it comes back up to the clubhouse, and 8 tees off right in front of it, and they just walked off the golf course because they couldn't take my anger. I mean, if I didn't do something perfectly, which you can't do in golf, I was blown up. And they had enough, and they go, we cannot play with you. And I MF them, let them walk away, and I kept on playing. You know, I didn't care. And it took me a long time, and now I look back at the day, and I just shake my head going,
Yeah, you're embarrassed.
It's so embarrassed. So embarrassed. There's some days where we reminiscing at a family reunion, I'll tell my dad that story, and he goes, we should have done that a long time ago, before they did it. And when at the moment, I could care less. I was like, you're not good. I am. Walk off. I don't care. But, you know, and so now when I see that with my son, when they're playing, if he throws a club or gets mad, and again, he doesn't really practice. He just goes out there and tries to do what I do. If he gets mad and throws a club, you got to set up for a hole. So me and my daughter or me and my wife will play a hole, and he has to sit in the cart. And he plays every other hole pretty much because but hopefully I can instill in him, that's a game. Have fun. Be good at it, but have fun. And, you know, you'll meet a lot more people, be friends with those people. But everybody, I know what it feels like to be that guy. And you start
enjoying the game more.
Yeah. And I know what it feels like to be that guy that's scared of somebody else in the group because you're like, whoa, take it easy. Because that used to be me. But it took me 35 years to figure it out. So now when I go out there, it's a lot more laid back, and I enjoy myself a lot more. So
that's awesome. Awesome way to end. Ben, you are like a brother to me.
Absolutely.
This was so much fun, and I'm glad we did it a second time. Thank you for tuning in. Really appreciate it. We got one every week, so hit that subscribe button so you're updated on all of them. And thanks for watching. Until next time, hit 'em straight from your friends at Angel Park. Cheers.
Thanks, buddy.
That was cool.